So addiction, certain things people can get addicted to can really ruin their lives. If you look at the lower class, for example, and the statistics on what they spend on stuff like alcohol, tobacco, etc. I've seen some statistics. Certain countries, their lower class spend about 10% of their income on tobacco. Now, tobacco I find is a very destructive herb in my experience, and it really just sends you on a path, a downward spiral where eventually you just start losing relationships and work and money, and it's not so good. I always had an idea, if a drug makes it harder to get hard, so to speak, if it's an anaphrodisiac, I believe is the technical term, which basically means something which hinders the libido, then it's not a good substance to take. But I guess there are more, in general. Anything that just kind of hinders sleep or fertility, personally I've found I don't like that, because I find those are the things that really destroy your life. Because if you can't get good sleep, and if you're just not, again, the fertility is the regeneration of the body, the healing and such. But I always think, there's nothing really stopping you from achieving the things you want. You kind of have to just go out and get them. But the thing that stops you is really yourself, and that would be, if you're not strong enough, you can't pick something up. If you're not smart enough, you can't solve something. So that's yourself being the hindrance. Which means, if you are addicted to something and you're not meant to be doing it, because, I probably shouldn't say this, but there are some good addictions and there are bad addictions, so to speak. Like, maybe at a time it's good to be addicted to work, or it's good to be addicted to studying, or to, I don't know, something productive, right? But if whatever addiction you have is not helping you, is destroying you, and just think that on the other side of that addiction, once you get rid of it, is the path to walk to the life that you want to live. So just kind of keep that in mind. But if you are addicted to anything that destroys your body or your mind or your energy and just sours you, get off it. It's not good. And I always find you have to kind of experience a bad enough experience to get off it, to be like, okay, I'm done. I'm never doing this again. You gotta hit rock bottom sometimes. That's if you're still in that mood of, oh, it's okay, I'm gonna be fine. You're alright. Otherwise, I try to keep these kinds of things for, just say, if it's maybe a special occasion or a holiday or a rest time. But some things I find it's just too much. Certain drugs or whatever, certain things are just too strong. So you got to figure it out for your own life, how to do things. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. Don't be thinking that, but just what I found. You gotta get back to reality and get back to work and get back to making money and making shit move and go. Otherwise, being lost in, sickness or addiction, delusion, whatever, it's not very good for your life. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for this one. So, personal space. If you live with people, especially people maybe you don't really like, whatever, it's a bit of a pain in the butt. If you live around people you don't really like, it's kind of annoying. I've always said about how you're just you're gaining energy just by existing. It's like a time, energy is like a time is an energy multiplier. No, that's not correct. time is an energy accumulator, not multiplier. So yeah, and the space, the personal space is kind of how you get the energy. So just say if you are sharing a space with another person, they're getting some of that energy. Or you're kind of fighting for the energy. I don't know if you notice that, especially if you're in society, everyone's kind of sharing the energy space. That's why it's really hard to say, if I want to make like a video out in society, it's very hard because I'm the one who has to generate you call it like the yin field. It's like the psychic field, because everyone else is trying to get energy, and just say if I'm trying to do my own thing, which is kind of contradictory to society. If you're on a road, you're trying to go. If you're in a shop, you're trying to buy or eat or whatever. If you're doing something contradictory to the energy, you have to have your own yin or negative space, negative energy space, to allow for the positive energy, which is whatever you're doing. Maybe you're talking, you're saying something, or you're trying to make something or whatever. So yeah, and then if just say if you're like at home or a place or whatever, and someone just wants to relax but you want to work, that's kind of a contradictory energy. Or if you're trying to relax and they're trying to work or do something, again, it's contradictory. So you're trying to make the space negative, and you're trying to like get the space to favor. It's like trying to get the weather to be on your side. Literally it's like that, but it's just like the energy, the kind of, you kind of think like the ether has its own weather in a way. But anyway, I guess that's why it's good if you live with people that that you have good relationships with, and that you align with kind of energetically. So yeah, I guess that's why people who like live with degenerates or whatever, that's not a very good thing. I find that you kind of pick up on people's energy if they're sick all the time, or they're on drugs, or they're doing something that's not good. It can affect you energetically. Yeah, just a little one on personal space, really. Something to take into notice is that, that's it for this one. Of course, feel free to check the links in the description, and have a nice day. Life was getting really hard, and I think in like pain, I wished for it to be easy, and life became easy for a couple days. Here's the funny part, or the strange part, maybe the almost shiroi part. I was like a bit ill for a couple days. I'm still kind of getting over it, but I'm pretty much over it. And during that time when I was ill, life was really easy when I was at work specifically, because the illness had like cut my head off, or made it kind of very blocked up, and I was pretty much running on subconsciousness. I was running on my kind of lower body, and it was easy because I didn't really have to worry and stress and think about things. I kind of just took it real easy, and I just was kind of lazy. And of course I was getting things done quickly and getting things done well and all that, but it was like my energy was kind of like a lazy, just not really thinking, not really doing nothing. And that's when I've kind of realized that, or I've been realizing for a while, that a lot of people in society are stuck at a very low level of consciousness. They're like a rock level of consciousness. But they're at that really root level, because a lot of people are just going with the flow of whatever is above them. They're just little conduits, little pawns of a chess piece for whoever is playing the chess piece. Maybe their boss, or whoever the boss's boss is, or whatever. So most people, they have an easy, quote unquote easy life. A lot of them have pretty easy lives, to be honest, because they are such a low level of consciousness. And I have found that as I started to heal and get better from that cold, after like a couple days, life started to get harder again, because I had to think more, because I was able to think more. And I found that I think there's a thing which is like, if you are higher in consciousness, if you are more intelligent, life expects more from you. It's a bit like, do you remember back in maybe school, or even probably if you work with people? I don't really work with people, well, kind of in a small way, but you know, if you're in a group and you have some people which are just, you just know they're stupid, you know, you just know they're useless, they're not really going to do anything, you don't expect anything from them, and they know that, they subconsciously know that. It's a bit like, I have this hypothesis about like some people in wheelchairs, or some people who have like mental disabilities and such, that maybe they're kind of pretending it a little bit. Like maybe they do have some stuff that's fucked up, but it's like they don't really want to fix themselves. Instead, they can just get free money and free care and all this stuff. So I always had this idea, like, what if they're just kind of playing the role, like they're just kind of pretending, and they just have enough, they're screwed up enough that they, you know, can kind of claim that, but they it's a bit like if you have weak legs and you never train your legs, you're just never really going to get stronger. You're just going to get weaker and weaker, you know. I've always thought that. So I've always thought with these people who are lazy in the groups, you know, the group work, the group study or whatever, or workers, you know, if they're really lazy workers, they know they're being lazy. They know they're being stupid. And they can try, they can apply effort. See, the consciousness is kind of gained and exercised through the application of effort and pressure and will. These people who live really easy lives, who just seem like nothing bad happens to them, they just go through life, it's so easy, it's so clean and all that, they don't apply pressure or apply consciousness or will or effort or anything. And that's how they get through life really easily, because they don't apply any of that. So the group leader looks at these people and they're like, okay, these people are useless. I'm going to have to light a fire under their ass if I want them to do anything. But the problem is, if I get them to apply effort, they are not used to that. So they're going to mess things up. So you know what? Instead, we're going to keep paying these people to do nothing because, you know, chances are they can't fire them or whatever. And it's easier to pay them to do nothing because they're not going to mess things up. I think it's how society views people who dole bludgeon, you know, are on welfare and all that. It's easier to pay these people to do nothing so they are pacified and they don't screw up society than it is to exercise them, to get them to do things, to apply effort, to make mistakes and eventually do things. So then you've got your other people who are more highly conscious, who are more, you know, heady, mental, etc. Racially, I know people don't like to talk about this, but racially it's more the white and the Asian people who are more on the mental higher levels, while it is, you know, usually the darker, and of course if you're darker skin, don't take it personally. If you're listening to this, you're probably quite intelligent. Similarly, you know, if you're white skin, don't get too, you know, don't get too above, because you never know. But yeah, usually it's the darker races that are more instinctive, that are more in their body. So this is the thing, if it's in the body and the head, the two things. So the more subconscious people are in the lower body, that's where their consciousness is. They're kind of in a sleep state, so to speak. They're in like a hypnosis, essentially. And the cultures and races that were more physical, like if you look at African people, they're more physical, hunting, etc. Or if you look at, I guess, people in the desert, you know, it's hotter. They're more, again, it's the spirit is more out of the body, it's pushed out. Well, if you look at people in the cold, you know, the cold, the Europeans up north, they're in the cold, it pulls the spirit internally, it pulls it upwards to the head, it clears the head out. So racially, if you look at those kind of places, that's where, you know, it'll be. Similarly, depending on your country, if it's cold or hot, or the time of day, the time of season, etc. That all affects it. So society has a lot of these very subconscious people, which I guess are kind of like worker drones at the end of the day. And then you have your other people, the more mental people, who control things mentally. They think up things. They're creative. They're intelligent, etc. That's the duality. And of course, you have the peaks of these people. The peak of the subconscious people is people who are essentially just, again, slave drones. They don't do anything. They are paid to do nothing. They're on welfare, or they're homeless. This is, the lowest rungs of society. Or the opposite is the highest areas. These are the ultra elite, the CEO of giant corporations and such, the hyper intelligent, etc., who control things. And I guess the hyper intelligent there, maybe it's more painful because you're more conscious of things. That's what I find. The more conscious you are of things, the more anxiety you're under, the more you're stressed. People who are more intelligent usually more anxiety, more stress, more stimulation, etc. If you take a stimulant, for example, it pushes you up into this and it thins the body. Or the opposite, if you take a depressant, it thickens the body because it allows it to rest. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's about enough. You probably get the idea. But that's basically how difficulty in life works, is the more a person is lower subconscious, again, the less people expect of them, the less they have to do. If they're at work, people don't like them behind their back because or maybe they don't even notice them. Sometimes they don't even notice them, to be completely honest. But yeah, and then the opposite is the more intelligent you are. It's like the intelligent kid whose parents put lots of work onto them because the parents are lazy. They're playing the negative role, and the child is playing the positive role. And the child has to set up all the electronics, has to do all the computer stuff for them, or whatever, has to do all the work because they see the child as intelligent. Anyway, that's how difficulty works, basically. Of course, check links in the description, and have a nice day. Alright, so just a quick one. Until money has been paid, there is no commitment in a business deal. Don't get lost in the discussional phase. Try to make business as simple and easy as possible. I've always found the idea of, how we have a camera or we have a monitor. This is a visual input-output tool. A camera is a input tool for visuals, and monitor television display is a output tool for visuals. We also have microphone and speaker or headphones. Again, microphone is the input tool, speaker is the output tool, and these all work in a specific way. A monitor works with a glass screen, a glass pane, and then it's just like a configuration of lights and magnetic fields depending on which kind of monitor it is. Like the LCD, I think they're just made up of a bunch of different, like a plane of rainbow LEDs or something, I'm not sure, or electromagnetically influenced LEDs, or just a electromagnetically influenced plane, or pane or plane. You can use both words for this, which creates a visual. The audio wise, I think the microphone is you have a little piezo electric crystal, or you have some kind of like a thing that shakes, like a piece of metal that shakes, which is in the microphone, which is attached to a wire, and it electrically, sends that signal through to the computer, while a speaker is like a coil attached to a cone, and you've got like magnets in the middle or something, and so these things, they have the engineering side has a creates this effect. So we're creating sound or visual through engineered things. I believe there is a taste sensor, which is like two metal rods, not rods but plates, kind of like these two plates, like flat pieces of metal flaps that you put on your tongue, and you can electrically feel, it stimulates the tongue. I've always wondered about, smell. I think that'd be cool. And I don't just mean like an essential oil diffuser that just, lets a bunch of different essential oils through. That'd be like the low level version. But how do we modulate the air to make smell with electromagnetic energy and technology and engineering? Because again, there are two main kinds of engineering. There's kind of the old school engineering, which is like a gas motor, and then you've got the new engineering, which is an electromagnetic motor, right? Or engine or whatever, driver essentially. So that you've got the kind of water, air, heat, earth, classical engineering, classical things, and then you've got digital things, right? Digital being electromagnetic, mostly made out of metals and earths and such. The older stuff is more made out of chemicals, though of course they both use chemicals to do their thing. And we're moving more into that digital era. And then if you want to go deeper in electromagnetic engineering, you have analog and digital. And the analog, I believe, is kind of like that old world technology where everything just kind of flows and it's all based on radio and free energy and all that stuff. And then the digital now is more the measured, the quantized bit rates and such. But going on, how do you create smell and taste, and when will we have them? Because this is kind of like the idea of full dive VR. Well, it's not full dive VR. It's the level before that, because full dive is just accessing the brain and the nervous system to modulate it and create essentially phantom or imaginary strong senses. This is before it. It's kind of like a VR helmet, and how that's when will there be like a smell thing or a taste thing, and a touch thing? I was thinking a lot about touch, and what I found with touch is that the Nintendo consoles have a lot of touch related things. The Nintendo Wii remote, if you've never seen it, look it up. It is a very interesting thing related to touch, kinetic sense and such. They have a lot of these things actually. The balance board, the I think they put gyroscopes and controllers nowadays, which adds, and vibration. That's a touch based thing. And the main kind of things of touch is firstly a gyroscope, which allows you to roll and roll, pitch, yaw. I think of the three different forms of rotation. Front rotation, left, right rotation, and then circular spinning rotation, I think. And then we have X, Y, Z motion movement, which is up, down, left, right, front and back. So usually it handles those. That's the most basic. So again, a Nintendo Wii console controller, that stick handles all of those things, and then it has vibration, and the last thing is resistance. You could make some kind of, you'd have to use like anti-gravity technology, but you could make a controller that has resistance. It resists when you push it some way. Or you could just use engineering in another way to make that happen. So then you've also got the touchpad, which is if you look at the DS and the 3DS and all that, it has the touchpad down the bottom, which is more of a tactile visual tool. It's kind of like a drawing tablet, I guess. But the controller, the Wii controller, is a very it's a great example of a tactile kind of controller or dongle. And another example I have, a little bit lewd, but if you've ever played the game Custom Made 3D, you can get a custom honor hole, which is a masturbation device that works with the game. Sadly to say, I've never experienced it. But that is another example of a computer tactile, sensory device. Gloves, for example, will probably become somewhat popular. Usually, I think gloves and a kind of like a controller similar to the Nintendo Wii, or that PlayStation. I think the PlayStation 4 had a controller where it had a thing on the end, and it's kind of like, just a controller that you hold in your hand, like a wand. I think the wand is a good tool-based controller. The wand is the ultimate tool-based controller, but the glove is the ultimate hand-based controller, because with the glove you can access, you can use your hands in a game or in a virtual environment. And of course, as we said, with the custom-made 3D on a hole dongle, this is a tool for your dick. You could have different tools for different parts of the body, like feet, for example, if you wanted to play some kind of running game or understand the physics of feet or movement or something like that. You would use a pair of, motion controlled feet, not feet, what are they called? Shoes, motion controlled shoes. So it really depends. Usually with our hands, we're using usually with motion and tactile senses, we're using our hands to feel textures, densities, and hardnesses, roughness, all this kind of stuff. And we're sensing movement kind of with the lower belly, I guess. The lower belly kind of pelvic region, I believe, is the center of balance. So potentially you could put some kind of brace around there, like a belt or something, that simulates motion through vibration. It could stimulate the nerves to make you feel as though you are moving forward or backwards. So again, you would have like a virtual reality helmet and you'd be falling forwards, and then you'd stimulate fall forward. You'd probably want to be sitting while doing this, because you would, unless you have very good control of your body, you would potentially fall. Yeah, which wouldn't be so good. But I look forward to this. I think we need like a Nintendo Wii controller made by, just like some cheap electronics, so we can make our own, or like a cheap controller, like a rip-off controller that we can use for just games, or so it's kind of like everyone can just buy a controller for $20, and it's a motion tool controller for virtual reality, instead of having to buy like a really expensive virtual reality headset. And we also need cheaper virtual reality headsets. I managed to I got one, and I sold one, a development kit for about $150. It was pretty cheap, but it also had very poor image quality because it was just a development kit, and I played around with it in Unity, trying to make just playing on how to make virtual reality games. And I also tried it in again, custom made 3D too, which is quite impressive. So I really, I do see the potential in the future of virtual reality and such, and I think it's just a good thing to add it to whatever game you are making or have, or whatever, just add it as a feature, unless of course the game is two-dimensional, or text-based or whatever. Well, I guess one-dimensional, I kind of think of it that way, if it's like that. But yeah, if it's a 3D game, I figure, and it's first person, may as well, just add it in as a optional thing to toggle in. So, and also the gloves. Hopefully we can get cheap, non-copyrighted, some bootlegged virtual reality gloves, and all the other, stuff without it being exceptionally expensive, because I think that's one of the issues now, is that this stuff is just way too expensive. It's really just and they don't make much of it. I don't know if it's just a lack of people wanting to buy it, or if it's too expensive, or if it's just not really people interested, or I don't know. But I don't think there's much sold out there, and especially if you live outside of the US, it's very difficult. Unless you want to buy, I think, like an Oculus Quest, which I don't think it connects to the computer. It's like its own standalone console, which is, I'm not really interested in, personally, in that. But yeah, I think we can cheapen tactile devices, and we can also get development of digital or electromagnetic smell. That's definitely a big one. Taste will more or less be or similar as a smell. You can probably have a thing which handles both of them. I think that would be very interesting, to be able to smell things on a computer. So anyway, I'll leave it with that. Of course, check the links in the description, and have a nice day. So, in working in society and just kind of living in general, I've kind of come to this idea of like the earth level, which essentially means like the earth chakra, or the earth energy point, energy center level, how strong it is, how good it is in a person. So we all have an earth center, which is kind of located in the bowel, relates to the tailbone, the anus, the reproductive area. And I believe people who work a lot and get jobs and all that have a stronger center. I find at least being out in society and doing some kind of work continuously seems to build it, seems to put a lot of energy there. Similarly, sleep and eating a lot and all this stuff, and rest and all, seems also to build it up. Just very mundane living. The idea of being a peasant, doing some mundane thing, never really having any kind of mystical out there experiences. Just the average people, the average NPCs. It's essentially the NPC center. And what I notice is that people get jobs based on how developed this center is. Basically, how much of an NPC are they? So you can have someone who's highly intelligent or skilled, or whatever, in some kind of subject, which is probably relating to whatever the job is, but they don't get the job because their earth center is not developed. Because usually an employer wants, the most NPC person, the person who wakes up, gets there, doesn't cause trouble for the company, even if they don't really innovate or they don't really do a good job. Or so many workers, especially nowadays, are lazy as sin. I tell you, it's shocking. Especially if you're there trying to get service or whatever, or your job relies on other people, working with them. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. But alas, these people, because they have a very negative yin kind of energy, it's a very societal, materialistic, Capricornian kind of stable energy, which society is dominated by. So really the main point is, I find people, the higher this level, the higher up a job you get in society. And it's a little different for, like, if you're taking opposite route, like entrepreneurialism, which is, being your own boss and all that, is like the opposite. It's like the yang, or the positive route. While working a job is the yin, the negative route. And there's nothing, I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with that. If anything, working a job is like so much easier. You make so much more money. And if you can do it, if you are blessed and you are a kind of yin, like you just have a strong earth center, you're really blessed. So take advantage of that. But the opposite is more the entrepreneurial person, which also needs to have a strong earth center, ironically enough. It's just that they also have a more heavenly center. They're more stimulated and creative and all that stuff. But if they don't have a strong earth center, they don't make money. because it relates all to money, to finances, stability, housing, etc. So people who are homeless, they have a weak earth center. People who are poor, again, weak earth center. It's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of like, I think I've made a video to explaining about relationships. It's life isn't fair. You know, if you have a strong earth center, you just make money, you just get jobs, you just things just happen. Again, same if you have a strong relational center, you just get relationships. You just, you know, it's just easy for you to do that, and it isn't fair. You know, it's the same way that not everyone can talk about things the way that I can and explain them. Not everyone can write the same way that I can and understand things. It isn't fair. This is a natural gift. Of course, it's something that I've worked on. You know, I've worked on quite a lot. I've always talked and written and studied and done all this stuff to work on it, but it's come naturally to me. Some people naturally, they're just NPCs. They just work a job, they live a simple life. You know, they're relatively happy. They don't really experience anything out of the norm. They try to keep away from weirdos and from people that are, you know, a little more stimulated, a little more than the bottom of the barrel kind of, you know, absolutely most settled part. And they just get on that way, you know. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and you can develop these things. That's the thing, you can develop it. It's just a difficult thing until it's not. Which is, again, one of the things I don't like about life, is that life has never felt like it's skillful, or, you know, I like the idea of skill and effort, and, you know, that's cool. It's like, yeah, I can put more effort into something or more skill into something. But I found it's not really like that. It's more just consistently doing things. Do things, rest, do things, rest, do things, rest. And then after years, it just becomes easy and natural. You just build up that earth center or that relational center or creative center or talking center or whatever. It just happens that way. But if you try to put extra effort in, it's like, well, you'll get some returns, you will, but you'll also burn out quicker. That's the thing. It's like with the relationships and emotions. You get emotionally traumatized the more you know, try to do this stuff. And it's like, can you handle that? Because, you know, maybe you've got to work your job, you've got to handle your duties at home or whatever, or you've got to care for people or something. It's like, do you really want to do those things while being emotionally traumatized and feeling like shit? Not really. So, you know, the people with all the free time and all the money in the world, I guess, can excel at things and get better at them more quickly. That is kind of life. Yeah, I'm sure you get the point. So if you want to work on your societal, you know, you want to get better jobs or whatever, really just work on that earth center. I find it darkest, you know, people who are darker in skin, everything's archetypal. So the lighter skinned people are more higher in the mind, you know, they have a less stronger earth center. Darker people have a stronger earth center. Why do you see so many, you know, immigrants and darker people? It's so easy for them to get jobs. They just instantly get them. Yes, there's things like diversity quotas and all that, which is actually, you know, pushing a lot of them into that. But also because they have a strong earth center, they just naturally gravitate to whatever these, you know, these kind of bottom, simple jobs are, whatever mundane kind of NPC jobs. They just gravitate to that. And of course, we could go on different races, you know, talking about how they gravitate to different works. It's kind of like Asians are more good at, like, you know, money and finance and business and you know, they know how to make a dollar, I'll put it that way. And you know, different Indians specifically, they're more like tech and programming and phone and network and radio based and all that stuff. It's different races, different job types, but you know what I mean. Yeah, the darker skinned people usually have a darker earth center, unless they're too dark, where it gets to a point where they don't really want to work. They more kind of want to, like I said, more drawn to nature. You know, if someone has too much of an earth center, they don't want to be in society. That's like a thing. It's like you can get too high of a heavenly center where you don't want to be in society, you don't want to run something, you want to just be free and be, I don't know, whatever, a wizard in the forest or some shit. So it works both ways. If you can understand the Earth Center, you can think about the heavenly center, and you can do that. How to build it up? Just work. Just do mundane things. Keep scheduled. Keep it a mundane life. Don't take drugs. Eat well. Sleep well. Exercise moderately. Learn how to take stress and all that. Yeah. And then you'll just magically make more money, and you'll get easier jobs, and you'll just fit in with society, because this fucking world, this fucking game of life is unfair, because it is not based on skill and effort, it's just based on what you do every day. I fucking hate it. I don't like it at all. My dreams have been crushed. Anyway, that's all for this video. Of course, check the links in the description. Have a nice day.